In this video, we're going to take a look at how to instruct and allow students to download slides that have been created during a session. Now, what you're seeing here is a side-by-side view of what here is on the left-hand side is the instructor view, on the right-hand side is the student view, and I'll extend those windows as needed. But I wanted to at least attempt to show you both sides at the same time, even though I can't extend the entire thing. So let's say, and this is just a simple example, but let's say you are working on a session where you have slides and maybe you have adjusted those slides or you've written on those slides. So for example, let's say I'm working on a session and I want to change some information. So obviously I'm not doing this very nicely, but you get the idea. Let's say I want to change that information to, let's change the color. Let's change that to 1/5/15. So I've changed that text to 1/5/15. Say I did that, maybe I circled a couple of things. Obviously I'm doing this in an obvious way so you'll be able to see the difference. And you'll notice over here on the student side that they're seeing exactly what I'm doing. So it's not like there's a ton of delay on that, and so you get the idea. Let's say for some reason you want the students to save this slide or maybe some other slides that you've created. And I'm going to extend this window and show you a couple of things. So if I want to send this to the students, let's turn this off to give us a little bit more room to work with. If I want to send it, I can go up to this pod options section and I can send a snapshot. That means I can put email addresses into the email snapshot and it will send it to all the students. So I could just do that right off the top and they'll be able to see it. However, you can only do one at a time. So it's only this slide that would be sent if I did that. So again, pod options, and then I have the send snapshot. You can also print. Similarly, it's only the current slide. So if I click on print, I can choose a printer, or if you have PDF installed, you can also do that. Either of those will work, and again, it's that exact slide that we're working on right now. Alternatively, students can do some of the same things. So let's extend this window back so that we can see the student side of things. So I'm going to push this back here so we get a little bit more view of the student side. So this is the student view here on my right hand side. Students also still have pod options just like you do. When I go to the pod options, I have a print. So I could, as a student, click on print and I get the same option. I can print to paper or I can save it as a PDF. So they are more limited, but they can do that on their own if they wish to. So if for some reason you wanted students to be able to print certain slides or certain slides were really, really important, that would be one way of helping them to manage that. Now, one of the challenges with this option is that students cannot navigate on their own without you. So as you'll notice, there's no navigational options here for the student. So they would have to rely on you to go to each of the slides that should be printed or saved, if they're going to do a PDF. So they can't really navigate on their own. You could change that, however. So here's an interesting idea. So I'm going to extend this back and show you what the instructor can do. So you'll see the sync button down here at the bottom. This sync button is similar to, in Franklin Live, I think it was called Follow Instructor. And the Follow Instructor allowed you to, the default was that you had full control over advancing slides. If you wanted students to have the ability to advance their own slides, you could change that setting. Well, that's what that sync does. So if I click on sync, it changes the view so that students, I'm going to put this back so you can see it, so students can actually advance their own slides and look at different things themselves. So if you wanted them to advance the slides, they could actually do that and get to different parts of the presentation. Seems to have a little bit of a delay to it, but it does allow them to go through those slides. So if you said, okay, everybody, go ahead and print out your slides, I'm going to turn it on so you can navigate to the ones you want, and you could allow them to do that on their own. But again, they're limited again though to the idea that they can only print them as a PDF or print them to paper. They can't actually save anything. So that's another option. Now I'm going to show you one more, and to do that I'm going to turn off the sync. It's not necessary, but I'm going to do that just to reduce some of the complexity. So I'm going to turn off the sync, and I think this is probably a little bit better of an option, but again, you have to really manage it. So as a host, I'm going to change the student to be a presenter. So I'm going to put them in the presenter area and then go back to the student view, and you're going to notice that the student view is now more like what you see, and they have more options. So they can draw on this too. Now again, this is a little dangerous because that means they can change what you've written. They can accidentally or purposefully delete something off of the screen. So it's a little dangerous to allow them to do this, but if it's a small session and you're having and you kind of trust everybody and you've trained them, they can be trusted to do this. So now when they go to the pod options, they can also do some other edits on this. So I don't know, it could be something where you want them to interact with that whiteboard and you want them to do those things. But it would give them a little bit more flexibility in interacting with what you're going to share. From the simplest standpoint, the students could always use the screen capture or the snipping tool, which comes with Windows 7, and they could just do a screen capture and save. So those are a few of the options. As I said, none of them I think are perfect. There's no way to en masse download all of the slides that you've written on. Now, if you simply want to just send the slides and you've got the file, then you could just do something as simple as, let's go back to the instructor host view. If you just wanted to send the PowerPoint with nothing written on it, you would go to you'd go to pods, you'd go to the share pods, which is where you do that, and you would look at the file sharing pods. This would allow you to add a file share pod and then upload files into the share so that the students could download them. That might be better, but again, what that doesn't give you is the things that you wrote on during the session. So if you did changes, they're not going to see the changes, they're going to see the original. So hopefully that makes some sense. I realize it's a little complicated, especially as you kind of work through those processes and come up with a method and a workflow that works for your particular situation, because really all of the situations are going to be a little bit different. Some of you are writing on slides, some of you are not doing that, some of you simply want to share the PowerPoint presentation that's completed as opposed to one that's been altered or written on during the session. Now, if I didn't say this before, I will say this right now to make sense. The writing that you're doing, it's just a layer on top of the PowerPoint. You're not altering your PowerPoint, but you are creating a different experience by using the PowerPoint as your base. So in case I didn't say that before, I want to make sure that's clear. You're not altering your PowerPoint. So if you were to send the PowerPoint going this way, these changes in the writing that you did on that PowerPoint would not be sent to the student. The only way to do that is through these pod options. So again, hopefully that makes sense to do that, and if you have any questions, let us know.